How's it going, guys? This is Jack here with the Commander's Wire, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be going over my mock draft 6.0. This is going to be the last mock draft before free agency starts for the Washington Commanders and before they start to fill out this roster for the 2026 season officially. Before we get into the mock draft, I want to let you know now, these picks definitely will not be that realistic. I had made this mock draft, the specific one, a couple weeks ago, and things definitely have changed. The NFL Combine has happened, the Senior Bowl, East-West Shrine Bowl, other things have happened to change the entire landscape of the draft process and all the prospects coming into the NFL through the NFL draft. So some of these picks may not be that realistic. However, you can consider these more like player profiles for potential college prospects that come to the Washington Commanders. Even though they may not be picked at the specific spots that I picked them, they are still potential players the Commanders could choose in the entire draft, regardless of where I choose them. So just take my picks with a grain of salt. If you don't really like where they're taken, just think of this more like a player profiles video. My point will get across regardless. So before we get into the mock draft, I would appreciate it. Go down below, drop a like, subscribe, turn on post notifications to know when I post next, and you guys will be notified whenever I upload more Commanders content just like this. Thank you guys, I really do appreciate it. And let's get right into today's mock draft. So as you can see from the title, we do have trades in this mock draft. I have the Commanders trading back with the Cincinnati Bengals. We are trading pick 7 for pick 10, as well as a second round pick, pick 41. Now, I believe the Cincinnati Bengals are probably going to trade up for an edge rusher or Caleb Downs, the safety out of Ohio State. But I think the Commanders are going to trade back here in this situation in order to accumulate another draft pick in the top 50, as well as keeping that first round pick. So with the first round pick, we were sitting here at pick 10. This is someone that I don't think the Commanders will reach for if they are at pick 10. I think this is a player that will go a little later than this. However, I have the Commanders choosing Peter Woods, defensive tackle out of Clemson. He stands at 6'3", 315 pounds. He is a run-stuffing defensive tackle. He who can also get to the quarterback. So I think that is someone that can soon replace Daron Payne on this defensive line. This year for the Tigers, he had 30 total tackles, 9 of those being solo, 2 sacks, and 1 pass deflected. So he didn't really have that many stats this year. However, Peter Woods is definitely an amazing defensive tackle and someone that I believe could take over Daron Payne as the #1 defensive tackle for the next couple years after Daron Payne eventually moves off of the team. So at pick 10 in round 1, I have the Commanders choosing Peter Woods, defensive tackle out of Clemson. Now, the second pick in the Cincinnati Bengals trade, we're sitting here in round 2 at pick 41, and we need a defensive end to add to the defensive line opposite of Dorrance Armstrong, and I have the Commanders choosing LT Overton, defensive end out of Alabama. He's definitely a bigger defensive end, similar to what Dan Quinn likes to have on early downs. However, I think LT Overton is someone that could come in on early downs, especially if Durante Jones wants to have more of a 3-4 type of defense. LT Overton could be that bigger body defensive end on early downs. He stands at 6'5", 278 pounds, and this year for the Crimson Tide, he had 40 total tackles, 25 of those being solo, 4 sacks, and 1 pass deflected. So he's definitely not a speedy guy. He's definitely not getting around the tackles on later downs during passing situations, but I think he does fill a role that the Commanders do need to add to. We have Deatrich Wise, who is getting older and also fills that kind of role. So I think having LT Overton under Deatrich Wise as a mentor allow him to continue to develop and be a solid defensive lineman for the Washington Commanders. So at round 2, pick 41, I have the Commanders choosing LT Overton, defensive end out of Alabama. Now the Commanders are sitting here with one of their original picks at pick 71 in round 3, and I have them choosing Omar Cooper Jr., the wide receiver out of Indiana. He stands at 6 foot flat, 201 pounds, and this year for the Hoosiers, he had 69 total receptions, 937 yards, 13.6 yards per reception, 13 touchdowns, and he also had some rushing stats here. He had 3 carries for 74 yards, he averaged 24.7 yards per carry, and he had 1 touchdown. So I think Omar Cooper is definitely a solid #2 receiver out besides Terry McLaurin. I think Omar Cooper has the skill set in order to eventually replace Terry McLaurin as this team's #1 X receiver. He can play all over the offensive side, whether it be on the outside in the slot. I don't know if he has that great of straight line speed as a Z receiver. However, Omar Cooper can definitely fill the other spots. He's very versatile. Obviously, he has some running plays as well, so he could be a gadget piece for you. I think Omar Cooper would just be a solid receiver to add to this receiver room with the Washington Commanders as a number 2 receiver opposite of Terry McLaurin. So at round 3, pick 71, I had the Commanders choosing Omar Cooper Jr., wide receiver out of it. The Commanders are sitting at round 5, pick 145, and I have them choosing Domini Jackson, cornerback out of Alabama. He stands at 6'1", 196 pounds. This year for the Crimson Tide, he had 38 total tackles, 26 of those being solo, and unfortunately only 1 pass deflected. So that means one of 2 things. He either was not getting targeted a ton because he was such a lockdown corner, or unfortunately he was giving up a lot of catches. So I really do not know. ESPN does not give that many stats for college players. Unfortunately, they really only do the basic stuff for all the college players, and they really have a lot more statistics for the NFL guys. However, I'm not expecting Domini Jackson to be a starting corner right away. He's definitely a guy in round 5 who is going to be on the team for a couple years. He's going to develop. He's going to sit on the bench, and he's going to be someone that needs to continue to grow as a NFL level cornerback, and that is exactly what I want him to do. So I think Domini Jackson is a solid player, solid build, 6'1", 196. He definitely has the framework in order to be a solid cornerback in the NFL, but he just needs more time in order to develop into a potential starting cornerback for the Washington Commanders. So in round 5 at pick 145, I have the Commanders choosing Domini Jackson, cornerback out of Alabama. The Commanders are now sitting in round 6 at pick 185, and I had them choosing Gabe Jacas, linebacker / defensive end out of Illinois. He stands at 6'3", 275 pounds. He's listed as a linebacker on ESPN, but he definitely is more of a defensive end. Being at 275 pounds, he's a solid run-stuffing defensive end on early downs, but with 11 sacks, which I'm going to get to in a second, he's definitely a solid pass rushing defensive end, and I think that versatility is something that Dan Quinn would absolutely fall in love with here at the Washington Commanders. So this year for the Illini, he had 43 total tackles, 23 of those being solo. Like I said before, 11 total sacks this season, 3 forced fumbles, and 1 pass deflected. I think Gabe Jacas is definitely the type of player, like I said before, that Dan Quinn would fall in love with. And at round 6, there's not really a lot of guys that I think have this type of production like Gabe Jacas. I think that Dan Quinn, Adam Peters are definitely going to be finding a diamond in the rough here with Gabe Jacas from the Illinois Fighting Illini. So in round 6 at pick 185, I have the Commanders choosing Gabe Jacas, linebacker / defensive end out of Illinois. Now at pick 207 in round 6, I have the Commanders choosing Jacoby Thomas. He is a safety out of Miami. He stands at 6'2", 200 pounds even. He had 75 total tackles, 45 of those being solo, 3.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, 5 interceptions, 1 pick 6, and he had 6 passes deflected. I think Jacoby Thomas is a solid safety in this class. I don't think he's going to be here in round 6. However, when I made this mock draft, he was sitting right there, so I had to take him. He'd be a solid free safety. I think he's a little small to be a strong safety. However, with 3.5 sacks, he's definitely someone that definitely could be a solid strong safety in the NFL. Blitzing, getting on the line of scrimmage, acting as a nickel, getting around the defensive line, picking up a sack here and there. I think Jacoby Thomas would be a solid defensive back for Durante Jones to use in this new scheme that he is installing with the Washington Commanders. So in round 6, pick 207, I have the Commanders choosing Jacoby Thomas, cornerback out of Miami. And for our last pick, this is definitely someone that I don't think is going to make it this far. However, in multiple mock drafts, he is falling way farther than this, and that is going to be in round 7 at pick 223. I have the Commanders choosing Pat Coogan, the center out of Indiana. He stands at 6'5", 310 pounds. We all know the Commanders recently released Tyler Biadasz, this team's starting center for the last 2 years. I think he was a pretty solid center. However, Commanders have thought otherwise. So I think the Commanders definitely could be looking to add a center in this year's draft, someone to develop under a veteran. I think Pat Coogan is definitely one of those top guys the Commanders could look at. I believe he won MVP in one of the bowl games for the Indiana Hoosiers, and that is very, very rare. So someone of Pat Coogan's talent as a center would be a great addition to the Washington Commanders, especially here in round 7. I think he's going to be more of an early day 3 pick, round 5, maybe round 6 if he falls out low. There are definitely a lot of centers in this year's draft that the Commanders could look at even in the earlier rounds in round 3. So I think Pat Coogan would be a solid pickup here in round 7 on day 3. So round 7, pick 223 of the Commanders choosing Pat Coogan, the center out of Indiana. And that is going to do it for my mock draft 6.0, the last mock draft before free agency starts on March 9th. Let me know down in the comments how you think I did on this mock draft. What are your thoughts on my picks? Obviously, a lot of these guys are not going where I'm choosing them. They're balling, they're rising. Everyone's all over the place. But take my picks with a grain of salt. Think of this more as a player profiles video. What are your thoughts on all the players that I have brought to you guys today? Do you guys like them? Do you guys not like them? Are there reasons you want them to come to the Commanders? Are there reasons you don't want them to come to the Commanders? Let me know down in the comments. I appreciate you guys for sticking with me to the end of the video. Go down below, drop a comment, drop a like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications to know when I post next, and that will let me know that you guys want more Commanders content just like this. Thank you guys so much for watching. God bless, and hail to the Commanders.